Welcome, everyone, to the Voice of the Veteran Show. You know, when you've been given a voice, a platform for change for veterans, it's a huge responsibility to just uplift veterans and do the very best thing that we can. And we want to thank our producer, Michael Franklin, MC Franklin, for coming up with the idea and the passion and the want to even do this show. And I really appreciate it because get off there. You know I don't want to be no, I'm just teasing you. There he is. You know, we couldn't do the show without him back there. And also want to mention, Nicholas Cormier the third, co-host of the show. Thank you. And also just say that this is actually the #1 show in the nation for firsthand veteran experience. We continue to try to bring up various issues and things that happen to us at the VA so that you can know what to expect, when you go to the VA and need some help. So I guess, Nicholas, I'm going to kind of out myself here today and tell our viewers about a personal thing that happened to me at the VA, and they did an absolutely bang up job. But, it's always difficult to go through an emergency ward, and that's what happened to me last Thursday. I was sitting in Renee Andreessen's office, and we were just chatting real quickly. I'll just go through this really quick. And we were chatting, and all of a sudden I said, oh, man, I'm just having this pounding in my chest, this kind of fluttering kind of feeling, and I'm dizzy and I can't quite get my breath. I don't feel very good. So she punches the button. This is Women's Health Clinic now. I mean, they did a really good job. And she punches the button and calls up Dr. Batuman. And she says, Dr. Batuman, I think Gail is having a heart attack. She says, Gail who? She says, Gail Ochiltree. She goes, oh, you mean our Gail? We'll tell her to go over to the clinic and we'll get a EKG done immediately. So I go over there and they hook me all up and everything. And she looks at it and everything was normal. But she says, you know what? She goes, this is just a snapshot of all the other elements that we need to know about. So why don't we get you over to the ER? So I walk over to the ER and I get checked in and had to check my knife in because I had a knife in my, backpack because it's a tool, I didn't even think about it, but, I was kind of embarrassed because, you're not supposed to have those in the hospital. But anyway, so I get all checked in and everything. They put all the monitors on me and everything. They start asking me a bunch of questions about, what was I doing? Was I overexerting or something like that? And I said, no, I was sitting still. They said, well, do you have any issues or problems when you go bicycle riding? Do you have, tightness in your chest? Do you get, pain or anything like that? I said, no, absolutely not. When I go bike riding, I feel better, and they go, well, that's good news. And so I spent the day there with them. And the good news is that, I have a little heart monitor on here now, just a little button that I push if I feel like something's not right, But basically, I came home and went on a 6-mile bike ride and felt better as a result. And as Nicholas, as you and I were talking about anxiety issues, this is what it ended up being is anxiety issues for me, are always helped by exercise and riding bike. And you said you have a lot of tools that you use in order to, get past that overwhelming feeling of, oh, I'm having a heart attack when it isn't. It's a panic attack. It's PTSD. It's, issues that were, it may not be any one thing. It's like a pile of things that we're dealing with all at once and trying to sort that out. Go ahead. Tell me what you're thinking.
Well, I mean, it's exactly that. I mean, it's identifying those things. I think for me, what helped me was a mindfulness. And that mindfulness is more of like sitting and saying, okay, where am I in my body? What am I feeling? It's just what does this taste like? What does this feel like? Where do I feel this? And it's being mindful of what's happening. And of course, having been through it. And for me, it's like, I'm not saying that this can never happen to me or I can never, it's identifying the anxiety, not allowing my mind to attach all these other things to it and saying, okay, this is anxiety. Of course, for those who've experienced that anxiety, or you can even call it a panic attack. If you've ever experienced that, you'll feel it, building up. The first thing that happens is the breath gets very shallow. So you may not know it, you're not aware of it, but you're now not breathing. You've actually started to breathe very shallow because you're starting to panic that you're feeling all of this anxiety and stress that's centering around here. So it starts to feel like a heart attack, right? And so you start to even panic more. Your breath gets even shallower and shallower. So the first thing I tell veterans and the first thing I learned is to breathe. Breathe, 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 breathe. And that will slowly start to work with that mindfulness of what's happening in the body. Of course, meditation helps me. Transcendental meditation helps me. There's a lot of other things that help me: picking up the phone, calling other people, having a support system of veterans or of other people around me help me not really have to live that on a daily basis. Now, this happened, I'd say, years ago when I didn't know what it was. I wasn't able to identify. And this is where the VA or the Veteran Family Wellness Center helped me, which is I was shown that feeling thermometer, right? And there's this, oh, am I in the green zone? I'm in the yellow zone. I'm in the orange zone. I'm feeling some kind of way. What kind of way am I feeling? And I think that is what started to help me identify that, working in concert with mindfulness and being aware of what's happening in the body. And then, of course, meditation, which allows a lot of those things that are building up to kind of, balance out and settle. And then I can see it when it happens. Doesn't mean I can't get caught off guard. I went to visit. I love my mother very much. I went to deal with family after months of being locked down in California. And I felt some kind of way, right? But I identified all of those things. I utilized every tool I had learned and was able to move through that and, be all the better for it and be able to tell this tale I'm telling you today,
Yeah, I love that. That's really good. And my takeaway from that is exercise. Just get out. I know you ride your bike a lot too.
I just got back from a bike ride. I just got off of Bologna Creek, riding near the beach. I start every show like that because I like to exercise before I come here and do Voice of the Veteran. So yes, exercise is huge.
I think it is. Yeah. And what I learned while I was in the ER was that heart attacks are just so very different from anxiety. Even though you feel like you're having a heart attack, it's not that. Anxiety needs exercise, needs to get out and do things and go out and be outdoors and do all of those wonderful things. That actually helps us. So, any guys out there, any of you with PTSD and these kind of issues, get with Project Healing Waters Fishing, do all of these things that the VA has available for us to do to help crush our anxiety issues and stuff like that. So
remember to breathe,
go ahead.
Breathe. I would just say, remember to breathe. The first thing that happens is the breathing gets shallow, and that starts to cause the anxiety to become very overwhelming. Breathe, 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 breathe is what I would say.
For several weeks, I've wanted to talk to you about your personal accomplishments and being published as a writer, because I'm very proud of you and all the stuff that you've done, and I'm sure you are too. Can you tell us about a recent article that, maybe we could give, a place for people to find it and read, all your good work? And can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Oh, well, I it's kind of like what happened to me. What happened to me this week was a podcast dropped. The Good Life Review published a fiction short story that I wrote called Passport. And it's really cool. The Good Life Review is an amazing literary journal. And it's amazing to be selected. And it's in the fiction category. It's a short story. That short story is kind of based upon these experiences that I was having with how I was feeling about a year ago, this time in June, of course, with the George Floyd and the protest and all of those things. So it was inspired by that. And I wrote it down. I worked it with other writers, got feedback, workshopped it, and thankfully it's taken on a life of its own, and it's given a platform to have a discussion about mass incarceration, about about being a black male, about the murders that have been happening from police officers with black men and women. And I know the beginning of it because I got to read a section of it on the podcast. There's a podcast at the Good Life Review. You can find it on Spotify, and I got to speak a little bit about that experience. And the story starts off with a young black man. I say young, not really young. He's in his 40s. But
Whatever.
a black homeless man that's been jumped, and he is the life is being squeezed out of him. He's right before he's about to expire, and a police comes and cuffs him and pulls his arm up, which allows the breath to come out of his back into his body, and he can breathe. So he thanks the police officer because now he can breathe. He gets handcuffed and he gets thrown into the prison industrial complex, or in this case, the Twin Towers Correctional Facility here in Los Angeles. And then it goes on from there. So it was really cool to get a chance to talk about those things and be able to set up a conversation about something that's obviously in need of being discussed, and a lot of work needs to be done in that area, particularly with mental health, because it also deals with mental health, which we know as veterans, a lot of us deal with that, and how mental health in the prison industrial system, how the prison system can prey upon those, particularly veterans who have issues with PTSD, hypervigilance, all types of things, and then being snapped up and thrown into a system that is extraordinarily difficult to extricate yourself from. So that's what Passport's about. I hope that more and more people read it because we can have a conversation through it. And it's really cool to get a chance to chop it up a little bit about it on the show.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, George Floyd, thank goodness, people actually listened this time, because I went through and said, how many Black individuals have actually been shot and killed in the last few years? And not last few years, it was a very short period of time. And I went through and wrote down everyone, because I wanted to get to know who they were as people. So I wrote down their names and actually looked them up to see what happened and everything, because I really wanted to try to understand. And there's 127 before I could even, before I had to stop and go, man, this is just an awful situation. And I'm glad you wrote that. And I'm glad that there's just, more and more emphasis being put on these issues. And
well, that's
good job.
And just to add on to what you just said, I think a great exercise would be to write the corresponding name to each one of those lives that was taken, because with that list that you mentioned, which is of course one that we can't even count at this point, there is a corresponding name to each one of those names that murdered that person, that Black male or female. And writing those names down, I think would be a very good exercise of those officers that have taken those individuals' lives, because that's the list I'm focused on today, which is that list of corresponding names to those lives that have been taken.
That's an interesting point. I'm glad I brought it up, because I just wasn't going to say anything, but that's
I'm glad you did too.
No, because I was just trying to get to know these people, but the opposite side of it is who the heck did this,
Exactly.
And I mean, that's really excellent. I appreciate that. Well, you're just doing great things. You're just ongoingly coming up. I mean, that isn't the only article that you've done. I mean, you've just been published.
It's a fiction short story. It's a fiction short story. It's not an article, but it is.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
It's a fiction short
Well, I look
story.
forward to reading it. I absolutely look forward to reading it. Well, so I'm thinking we need to bring our guest on. What do you think?
Absolutely. I'm super excited about our guest.
Yeah.
Super excited. It's someone I know and have the pleasure of getting to meet and a while back. And I'm so excited to have Dr. Kathy Cash on Voice of the.
Let's bring her on. There she is. All right, Kathy.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
And it's
Excited
great to
be
have
here.
you on the show. Yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
Dr. Kelly
I know this is going to
Cash.
be a great discussion. Well, so now you are a VA employee and you're a peer support specialist at
Yeah.
which VA is it now?
I'm at the downtown clinic,
Downtown.
the Los Angeles Ambulatory Care Clinic.
Yeah. Now, what made you decide to get into this kind of work?
Well, first of all, I am a U.S. Army veteran. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm a U.S. Army veteran, and I served. Ooh, there's that picture. I
There you
served.
go, Doctor.
Looking good.
Looks just like me. I served from 1983 to 1986 active duty, and then to 89 in reserves. Now I was at Fort Hood, Texas.
Yes.
I did my
famous.
basic training at Fort Dix, New Jersey. So that was really interesting because I was born and raised in Los Angeles, and it doesn't get any cooler than 65 degrees in Los Angeles. So I went to basic training in Fort Dix, New Jersey in the wintertime. So that definitely was a life-changing experience to start with. So
Yeah. Oh my
I
goodness.
served as a food service specialist, the second most important person in the military,
Yep.
right behind payroll.
Yeah.
So that's what I did.
That's right.
And when I got out of the service, I was told I was not a veteran. I served post-Vietnam and pre-Desert Storm. So the time that I served, there was no combat going on. So when I got out of the service, people say, you're a veteran, you can go do this, you can get this, you can get that. So I went to see, and I don't even remember who it was, because when you told me no, I was done. But it was some official person at a VA clinic or VA someplace, who told me that because I did not serve combat, that I was not a veteran, that all I had access to was my home loan, 6 months of dental work, and the school money that I saved. That was all I had access to. So I said, okay, and moved on with my life. And then some 20 plus years later, I had a medical challenge, a health challenge that I need to see about. And a friend of mine who served at the same time that I did, he was a Marine. He's passed on now, but he was a Marine. And he asked me, what VA do you go to? And I said, I don't go to the VA because I'm not a veteran. What do you mean? And then he gave me some very colorful language. And long story short, I went to the VA and I started receiving services. So I met Roy Brown, who is the national director of Vet to Vet, which is a national peer support organization started some 20 years ago by Mo Armstrong in Connecticut. And the premise of that was one veteran helping another veteran. So I began working with Vet to Vet. I volunteered with Vet to Vet for 2 years. And during that time, I learned about mental health illnesses. I learned about substance use. I learned about the challenges that as veterans we face, the stigma that's put upon us in the name of helping, and why veterans don't get services. And there were so many things that came out of that. So I was volunteering with Vet to Vet. And meanwhile, during that time, President Obama signed an executive order mandating that the VAs hire 800 veterans as peer specialists. And I was able to get into one of those waves. And fast forward, I am doing the best job that I ever loved. I'm doing the same thing that I'm getting paid for that I was doing for free. So you know what they say, if you do a job that you love, you'll never work a day in your life.
Yes.
So for the last 8 years, I have not been working. I just go to the clinic, go to the hospital, go to the community, and I just serve veterans because I don't want anyone going through what I went through. And oftentimes it happens because nobody is listening to you.
Yeah.
And that's one of the greatest pieces of being a peer specialist, having that listening ear.
Yes. Thank you so much, Dr. Cash. I know.
Well, what is it like? Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just, I wanted to hear a little bit more about peer support, Dr. Katz, because I know what was the process of becoming a peer support specialist? And I know it's something that a lot of veterans, because like you said, there's that piece about not wanting anyone to go through what you've had to go through. And that's what fuels a lot of veterans to go into peer support. How would a veteran go about becoming a peer support specialist today?
Okay, so the premise of peer support is recovery. We are veterans who have lived experience. We have lived experience in life. It's whether it's mental health challenges, and truth be told, it's not necessarily being diagnosed as having something wrong, but it's going through something. And also substance use issues. As veterans, we have a tendency to self-medicate. Right. And a lot of it comes from the stigma that not only society places upon us, but we place upon ourselves. You know, I'm a soldier, I'm a Marine, I'm an Air Force, whoever I am, I was taught and trained to be tough. So I can withstand it. So I'm having nightmares and don't worry about it. I'm tough. I can handle this. So I do something on my own, whether it's liquid substance or physical substance, whatever I do, I'm doing it on my own because I don't have it in me to go and say, I need help. Because I go to a clinician, I go to a provider, and this is me, the stigma that I'm looked upon as in the label that I'm giving. Yeah. You know, you're depression, you have anxiety, you have PTSD. PTSD is not my name, but that's how I'm looked upon. Yeah. And that's how, as veterans, we're looked upon, we're given that stigma. And it's in mainstream too, but we're just talking about veterans because I know that's what I'm talking about. That's who I am. Yeah. We don't ask for help because of the aftermath, whether it's from the outside or from the inside. I'm supposed to be tough. I'm supposed to be strong. But if I go in there and ask that question, that's going to make me weak. So we don't do that because we have people that we're talking to that haven't been where we've been. But then as a peer specialist, I've been there. So I can talk to you and I can tell you my story. I share with you my story. Wow. Yeah, I went through this, I went through that. And it's like, wow, you know, one thing I like to share was providing services to a veteran who was about to get evicted. And he was been out of shape, all upset because he was trying to figure out what was going to happen to him and his children. And he was fussing and cussing and just telling, I was with the social worker at the time, and he's telling us, you don't understand. You don't know what I'm going through. You have this, you have that. And he's just going off. And when I got him to stop and I began to share with him my story, and I said, I have the hat, t-shirt, and the yearbook. So you can't tell me I don't know what you're going through. So we were able to have a conversation then, and I was able to support him to get from where he was to where he wanted to be. And that's the value of peer support. The training is an 80-week training. In that training, it teaches you how to communicate with people. It teaches you how to listen. It teaches how to share your story. Every opportunity that you meet somebody is not an opportunity to share your story. We all have a story. I can talk to you for hours about my story, but the relevant, if it's not relevant, then it won't help you. I would be able to pull out the pieces that are relevant to you about my story. I'm listening to you as the veteran, and I'm listening non-judgmentally. I haven't already decided what's wrong with you. I haven't already decided that this is what you are supposed to do, or this is what you need. I have not decided any of that. I'm listening to you, and I support you in making your decisions. If you tell me I don't like being here on Earth, I want to build a rocket and go live on the moon, I'm not going to say that doesn't make sense. You can't do that. My next line would be, what's the first thing you need to do? What do we need to do? We need to go find some rocket fuel. Okay, how are we gonna get the rocket fuel? And I work with you through that process, and you make the decision. Okay, well, I don't think I'm gonna get to the moon. Maybe I just do good going to Lancaster. I'm supporting you in whatever decisions that you are making. I'm support. That's support. That's support. So it's your decision. The normal is not what I say because you are the expert on yourself. You are the expert on yourself. And because I'm a listener, I listen to you, and if you ask me questions, I move it around and I share what I think and what I would do, but by no means that's what you have to do. Because as a peer, all of our experiences, they may be similar, but they're not the same. And because of that, I can't tell you how you need to do something for your life. And that's the value of peer support. So in terms of the training, 80 hours, and right now there are 2 organizations that provide the training for veterans who want to be peer support with the VA. Because peer support is not just in the VA, but there are only 2 organizations, 2 nonprofit organizations that provide that training. The first one is RIinternational.com. RIinternational.com.
I'll see if I can't type that in the chat box and help you out with that. RIinternational.com.
Yes.
If we repeat it enough, we'll get it there somehow. Kathy. Yeah.
There it is. And then the second one, the second organization is DBSA, which stands for Depression and Bipolar Support Alliance. So that website is D like David, B like boy, S like Sam, alliance.org. dbsalliance.org.
Wow.
So currently, those are the only 2 organizations contracted by the VA.
You and I are both on this.
Okay. dbsalliance.org. Yes.
Interesting.
And then RIinternational.com.
Okay.
Yes.
Nice.
And so right now, those are the only 2 organizations contracted by the VA to do peer support training for people who want to be hired by the VA. However, there are other organizations that provide peer support in the community for the community-based organizations that may want to hire peer support, a specialist to work within their organization. Because in having someone who's been there has been proven to be more viable, more instrumental than having someone who has graduated from X number of universities and have X number of initials behind their name. Right. Not that they are not valuable, but having somebody who's been there has proven, evidence-based, has been proven that when you talk to someone who understands you from a lived experience, the hospitalizations have decreased, the relapses have decreased. All of those things that are detrimental to us as veterans, they have decreased because of the fact that they were able to talk to someone who's been there, not feeling like they were being judged, not feeling like what they were doing is totally wrong, not being told what to do, but having somebody support them in their decisions. And one other thing I want to mention, I do work in the HUD-VASH program, where I help formerly homeless veterans obtain housing and remain housed. And what that looks like is supporting them with learning how to cook, helping them to balance a checkbook or dealing with their financial management, helping them with socialization, helping them reintegrate into the community. That's part of my job as a peer specialist in the HUD-VASH program. And HUD-VASH, I want to just explain that. That's the Housing Urban Development Veterans Assisted Supportive Housing. Mm-hmm. So that's just shortened for Section 8, basically for veterans.
Yes.
The Section 8 program.
Absolutely. Well, Dr. Cash, I can add a little bit about that because everything Dr. Cash has shared with us, I can tell you, if you're just joining us on Voice of the Veteran, I have experienced exactly what Dr. Cash is talking about, that need for housing. Dr. Cash did not need to show up. When I was in a shelter as a veteran at the Welcome Center, I went in a back room. Dr. Cash was there after she finished working She was done with her day, and she came to make sure she was present for me and worked with me on housing, shared with me things about how to get housing, and really was another veteran that gave me the ability to see what was in front of me. She didn't tell me what to go do, how to go do it. She just held space for me and provided information. And of course, I'm housed now through the HUD-VASH program. Thank you, Dr. Cash. It's been over a year that I've received housing, and I always go back to remembering it's hard to explain what it's like to be in a tiny room with 2 other veterans, 3 veterans, and then walk to the back room where we eat, and you be sitting there, just you and I in that room, and you holding space and letting me know, yes, you can get housing. Yes, that will happen. And a year plus later, maybe a year and a half later, that has happened. I'm housed and thriving. And thank you, Dr. Cash, for what you do for me and what you've done for so many other veterans.
Yeah.
You're welcome, because it starts with hope. It starts with hope. If you don't have hope, peers are change agents. We instill hope, because at one time we were hopeless. Then we became hopeful. And we're sharing that hope with those that we meet, those who may not have hope. So we're sharing that. And it doesn't always happen in the first meeting like it was between me and Nick. It may not happen in the first meeting. It may happen 3 or 4 meetings. It may be 6 or 8 meetings. It may be a couple of months before, as a veteran, you realize, wow, this peer is for real. Yeah. Wow, this is hope that's coming out. Wow, they are really here listening to me and helping me. They are really there supporting me. And because of the mistrust that veterans have, it sometimes it does take a while to get to that point. Because as peers, we instill that hope. We role model that hope. We mentor. We set up the table for hope. So you have hope within you. And then now we can move on to the next step, because there are 5 things that I put as my own foundation in what I do. And that first one being hope. And then the second one being personal responsibility. As I'm sharing with the veteran, what is your part in this? You can't sit and wait for somebody to drop keys in your lap. If you're looking for housing, where do you want to live? You know, are you taking that initiative to go out and look? Are you going online and looking? Are you doing what are you doing for your part? Don't wait for somebody to call you back, because everybody is busy. As much as we want to be the main focus of somebody's life, I want everybody to think about me all the time, but that's not reality. Okay, that's not real. I would love it if people called me all day, every day, because they thought about me, but that is not real. So that means if I want to talk to somebody, if I'm looking for something, I have to call them. So that personal responsibility, that's the part that I'm playing in getting myself housed. That's what we share with the veteran. What are you doing? And then after you establish the fact that there is some personal responsibility, then we're looking at education. What are you learning in terms of getting over this hump, in terms of getting housed, in terms of walking through your recovery? You need to learn something about what's going on. If you're trying to be housed, where can I be housed? I have a city voucher or I have a county voucher. What's the difference? You're learning about what it is that you can do, what it is that you need to do. You're dealing with your recovery. How can I need to see a substance use person, a social worker, someone to help me get out of this place, so I'm going and asking for help. I'm going and reading about what's going on in my life. And once I get all that, I'm learning, I'm getting that education. And then my 4th point is self-advocacy. Because once I've learned what I can do, then I can stand up and say, this is what I want, or this is what I don't want, or this is what I can do, or this is what I can't do. So when I first look at the hope, and then the personal responsibility, and then the education, and then the self-advocacy, because since I have a city voucher, so I want to move to city of Los Angeles. I want to move to downtown Los Angeles. I can do that. I can ask, well, why can't I move there? That's the self-advocacy. Don't just tell me you can't do it. Because I educated myself, I can ask you, then why can't I? So now I'm demanding something from someone who is saying that they are out there to help me and to support me. So after that self-advocacy comes the support. So if you do everything that you do, you still need support sometimes because it is scary out there. It is scary. Things that you used to do, you could do it at a drop of a hat. But now you have to go through this. You got to go through this process. You got to wait for this person. You got to fill out this form. And sometimes it gets scary. But when you have that support, it's like, take a breath. Let's do some mindfulness exercises. Let's take some deep breathing. Let's go for a walk. Let's talk about what's going on. That's the support, because I'm also there as your cheerleader. I know you can do this. And that's what support is. So when I put those 5 things together, that's what I use to support the veterans that I'm serving in the HUD-VASH program and also in the community. Because before I can, I'll get calls from people, I need some help. We have to sit down and talk about, what does that mean? I'm not running around like a chicken with my head cut off trying to get everything done for you, because that's their personal responsibility. You have to do some things. So I'm talking to you. I'm supporting you. We're making this happen. We're making this happen together for you. And that's what a peer support specialist does. And you have to have a heart for it. You have to have a heart for it because of the distrust, because of the unknowing and unwillingness, and because of everybody's uncles, brothers, sisters, cousins, babysitters, daughters said. We get that all the time. Well, you're supposed to be able to do this because you're a veteran. Well, there's some pieces to that. You can't just say, well, I'm a vet. I'm supposed to get $3,000 check every month. How come I ain't getting it and be mad? No, there are things that you have to do. But people will tell you that you can do this automatically. So when we walk through this process, the veteran has to be patient as we're walking through this process, because it is a process. Yeah. And with the hope allows them the stamina to keep walking through the process.
Yes.
And then they have support from the peer specialists. There are over 60, there's about 55 peer specialists in the GLA system. And we're in HUD-VASH, we're in MICM, we're in HPAC, we're in outreach, and we are hoping to get peers in the emergency room and in the women's clinic, because those are places where veterans come in, they're scared, they don't know. They just need that support, because even on a regular day, when you go to the doctor, and just anyone listening, when you go to the doctor, if the doctor gives you bad news, you don't hear anything else after that bad news. You don't hear the hope that they're instilling in you. You go, the doctor says, well, I'm sorry to tell you, well, Kathy, you have cancer. That's the last word I hear. I don't hear, but it's only in your pinky finger. And all you have to do is, I don't hear that part. I just hear you have cancer. So when there's support there, support is able to support the veteran in calming down, if you will, just enough to hear what else is going on and to ask them to ask questions so that they have an understanding when they walk out of the doctor's office.
Right.
So peer support is a humongous field.
Yes.
And we're
stepping up, having veterans step up. Oh, we're overlapping for some reason. It's a technical thing. Go right ahead. Say whatever. Okay, I just wanted to mention that veterans stepping up is an important thing, because stepping up and telling people what their needs are, because I know I was at an event with you just last week with the American Red Cross, and they were actually asking us to please tell us what it is that veterans need. And you insightfully said, actually, it's more about what they don't need. I mean, ask a veteran what it is that is needed or not needed, because a lot of times they create programs and things that people don't show up because it is something that is not specifically about what's needed. And clearly this one-on-one is really great. Sometimes when we have a group and they want to have some kind of a therapy session, it's not as effective as what I'm hearing from you right now, being in a one-on-one situation. So I really appreciate your work, and just please go on some more. This is wonderful to hear all this stuff.
Yeah, both of them are both are very effective, one-on-one or group. It's just that when our community organizations and when people in the community, when they want to come forward and support the veterans, they don't know what to do. And they're thinking one thing, well, let's have And this is an experience, several experiences that I've had with groups that want to help women veterans. Because as women veterans, we are hidden. I call us undercover because we don't come out, because there's no trust there. And that's a whole nother episode about women veterans and the things that are going on with the women veterans. But when the community says, we want to have this event and we want to invite the veterans. So they invite the veterans, they give us food, and then they have a psychologist, they have a psychiatrist, they have a social worker, and it turns into a gigantic group therapy session. I went to one women's event, and it started out great. We had great continental breakfast and great reunion. And then somebody came and talked, and then somebody started talking about MST, and somebody talk about the harassment and everything else. And MST, you all did an excellent episode on it prior to the break, military sexual trauma. The speakers will come out and start talking about that, and women get triggered, and next thing you know, everybody's crying and walking out and just upset when it should have been a great women's event. So it's not so much what do you need, but what do you want? What can we do for you? Treat us like we are there. Don't treat us like a specimen. Treat us like we're human. We love to eat. We love to paint. We love to glue stuff together. That's fun. If I'm gluing it together, you don't have to talk to me about my feelings. And that's where it falls. That's where it ends up happening sometimes, because the women won't come out because I don't want to talk about my feelings out in public. I don't want my makeup running and watching everybody watch me cry out in public. No, I save that for the therapist. But I want to come out to a women's event and fellowship with the women and talk to the women and have little mini reunions. There was an event last weekend. Yes. Sarge's Resource Center. Go Sarge. Sarge's Resource Center. He honored 50
that was
women.
Good stuff. I was there with you.
It was, Gail was there. I mean, it was just so many women, and the resources that were there were for the women. There was a Camp Transformation was there. Women Vets on Point were there. Veterans Family Wellness Center was there. Veterans Standing Together was there. All of these organizations were there for the women. There were no therapy sessions. There were no therapy sessions. It just didn't happen that way. We were outside at picnic tables. We had awesome barbecue. We had mimosas. We had sandwiches. We had chocolates. We had everything. Fun. It was so much fun. There was great music. It was just so much fun. Yeah. The men there, they catered to us. I can't say it enough. It was just so much fun. This was Sarge's Resource Center.
Yep. Good job.
And he said he's doing another event later on this year. But October. That's what the women want.
Yeah.
We want to have fun just like everybody else.
Yes.
If you're afraid of triggering,
hey, you know what? I want to make sure we talk about your podcast.
I can hear you.
Dr. Cash, Gail was saying she wanted to hear more about your podcast. She wants to talk about your podcast, is I think what Gail was saying.
Okay, so I have two podcasts.
Yeah. I want to make sure.
The first podcast that I've been running since October is Change Your Focus and Live Life. Change Your Focus and Live Life. Mm-hmm. And you can find it on practically any podcast platform. It's an audio podcast, and it's just about things that you need to think about to change your focus. So often we look at what somebody has done to me, but it goes right back to personal responsibility. What someone has done to you. Okay, so what can you do to change the situation? What can you do to change how you feel? Because you are responsible for your own feelings. You are responsible for your own feelings. Nobody can make you mad. But if they do something that you're not happy with, flip the script, change the situation. So that's the first podcast. And the second podcast, which will be, it hasn't started yet, but it's coming in I believe our date is in mid-June, but that one is called the Veterans Wire. The Veterans Wire. And WIRE stands for Wellness, Information, and Resource Exchange. The Veterans Wire, where WIRE stands for Wellness, Information, and Resource Exchange. Because as veterans, we need to get to a place of being well. And wellness is defined by the individual because, once again, you're the expert on yourself. Information, how can I get to do what it is that I want to do? What information do I need for my benefits? What information do I need to get housing? What information do I need to get medical care? The resources. There are places out in the community where I can get things that I need. So those are the resources. And then we're coming together on that podcast platform to exchange all of that information. So those are my two podcasts. Because when we talk about the pandemic, and some people say, well, the pandemic was terrible. For others, it was good because it allowed us to think about some things. It allowed us to grow some things. It allowed us to give birth to some things.
Oh, yes.
So in that regard, the pandemic was great. It's great. It's finishing up, but, all is well. All is well.
Dr. Cash, what about the Chat and Chew? Are you still doing the Chat and Chew?
Yes, we are still doing Chat and Chew and Coffee and Convo. Again, those came out of the pandemic. When everything was shut down, veterans couldn't go anywhere. Nobody could go anywhere. So there was a time when you're home, you get to talking to your refrigerator and your microwave and your air conditioner and your TV. You're talking to your appliances. So now you need to have some communication with some real people. So we were able to get on a video platform and do Chat and Chew, which is on Tuesday afternoons at 12:30 Pacific time. So it's from 12:30 to 1:30. That's our Chat and Chew.
Yes.
On Wednesday mornings from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. is Coffee and Convo. So both of those are just open talk groups because you come on and whatever is going on in your life is not a therapy session. It's not it's just there. Whatever information that the veterans had to share amongst each other, that's what we did. Our conversations we have a quarantine creations where during the pandemic, people started painting, people started doing photography, people are gluing things, and they would show their arts and crafts during the group. If they were writing, we've had one of our members would read his poetry. Mr. Smith, one of our writers would read his poetry and we would share, and then we would have a question of the day. The question of the day was some random question. We had over 1,500 questions, but just a random question to get people to think and to continue the conversation. One of our questions was, if you could create your own planet, where would it be and what would it look like? So that was pretty interesting. So we get to tap into our imagination with the question of the day.
I love the question of the day. I forget what it was when I sat in. Oh, it was about a movie. It was about the movie. And I got to share that I had seen Little Women with my daughter. And I started crying because the lead character of Little Women writes a book. And at the very end, through every obstacle, being told no a million times, she gets published. And the book is received very well. And this was New Year's Eve. It struck 12 while we were watching the movie with my daughter, who I was just reuniting with. And I'm a writer, and I'm watching Little Women. And I start bawling. And my daughter says, "Are you crying?" Life is beautiful, you know?
Yes. So yes, in these open talk groups, that's what we do. We share those things.
Hey, let's tell them about the Legion shooting day before we run out of time.
Oh yes,
because I know now you and I went shooting yesterday. There we go.
Yes,
there's you and me, Kathy, shooting at the OC Club. And I'm telling you, you were tearing it up. You were sunbursting those clays out there like you just were doing this every day of your friggin' life. I was amazed. You
So
just
much
great job.
fun.
Great job.
That was so much fun.
Oh man. Well, they're going to have a Legion Shooting Day. Legion Shooting Day is coming up on the 29th of May at Oak Tree Gun Club. And there's the flyer right there. And from 9 until 11. And they're going to have competitions. They're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to be able to network and just shoot stuff. I mean, I tell you, that's a nice place. Didn't you like Oak Tree?
Oh, it was wonderful. It was wonderful. Yes.
Yeah.
So I loved it. I had so much fun. I have not shot.
We got to just hang out up there in the trees. Nobody bothered. Yeah. Oh yeah. I had fun too. I got a bruise on my shoulder, but that's okay. I'm happy.
That was so much fun. And just being able to get together with other women vets, that was awesome for me. And that's one of the things as a peer support we do. We organize different trips and different outings for veterans to get together. Because if a veteran is suffering from anxiety or depression, they won't be looked at funny by the others of the group, because everybody's going through something. And when we recognize that we're going through something, then that's half the battle right there. And that pin that I'm a woman veteran, I wear that because when I go to the clinic, sometimes they forget that I might be the veteran, that I'm not there with my brother or my husband or my dad, that it might be me that needs services. So I wear that and it draws attention because I am a woman veteran. And when I came into the knowledge that I'm a woman veteran, I now wear it proudly. And I encourage other women who are women veterans to wear their status proudly, not just waiting to eat free on Veterans Day, but going throughout the year, gaining that recognition, or painting and basking in that recognition. Because, people say, thank you for your service. And I learned yesterday, I can say, thank you for paying taxes.
Well, speaking of taxes, if you're a California resident, you may want to file your taxes by May 17th. There's a stimulus that one can qualify for if you make that deadline out here in California.
Yes.
That's right. Absolutely. Oh, this has been really great. This is good.
I'm there as a peer specialist. I support veterans in getting whatever it is that they need and whatever it is that they want to do. I'm there as support.
Yes. Thank you so much, Dr. Cash. I mean, there's so much that you're doing. And when you say hope, I just want to say, the hope that you gave me by being there for me at a time where I will be honest, I did not have much hope because I was beleaguered. I was tired. I had been through a system that takes. And to have you sitting across from me on the other side saying that, here, I'm on the other side. And that connection truly still fuels me. And I'm just really grateful for that, because it's why I want to transmit what I've been given and what I've been through to others, to inspire and to give hope as well. And I'm going to write down the other four too. The other four tenets I'm going to write down as well, because clearly they are working in your life in a major way and exponentially helping veterans. Thank you, Dr. Cash.
You're welcome. And you're walking in those five tenets as well. You're doing that, both of you, in this that you're doing. You're instilling all of that into veterans who view this podcast, because we all need that. We all need to know that there is somebody I can call, somebody I can go to. If I don't know, I'm gonna call Gail. If she doesn't know, I know she's gonna find somebody who knows.
That's right.
And that's when you get up, when you get to the point of, not that you actually made it, but you're at a point in your life where you can take a breath and say, okay, let me just keep on moving on. But then you say, let me turn around, because I remember when I stood in that room and raised my hand with that flag, and then I went through training, somebody told me over and over and over and over and over, leave nobody behind.
Yes.
That's right.
Leave nobody behind. So as I'm going, I'm pulling as many people as I can pull. And you don't have to stay behind me. I can pull you and fling you up in front of me, just so long as I don't leave you behind.
That's right. And when veterans help veterans, lots of veterans get helped. You know,
Yes.
I mean, vet to vet. I mean, this is like something that we want to do for our buddies. You know, give them information. Information's power. So
Yes. Yes.
this is cool. This is cool. So what did we learn today? Let's just do the rapid recap with Kathy here, because I want to hear also what she has to say. You know, what was the main thing that we came across today? I like the thing about hope. I'm feeling good about that. You know, I mean, just thinking that that's what I should be doing in my job as a VSO, is instilling hope in veterans and, you know, saying, hey, we can work this out. I'm here to help you, be with you, be, you know, a battle buddy. I hate the term sometimes because it sounds a little overused, but it's a nice thing, actually. You know, I want to be a battle buddy in this process of getting through, you know, benefits and whatever it is that you need. You know, Nicholas, what did you find out today that you just sticking in your head more than anything else?
You know what? I think it's that I'm not the only veteran that talks to appliances. I thought that it was just me that was talking to appliances during the pandemic. It's good to know I'm not alone.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. That's right. I'm telling you, it's been weird. Has it been weird for you, Kathy?
Yes, it has. It has. And it's just in vet to vet, I learned how to be innovative and just making something out of nothing. And that's what I've been doing. And I was, you know, and one thing, you never know the kind of impact that you have on someone, because if you help them or you support them or you do what you're supposed to do, then they go on with their life. I am grateful that I was on this platform, that I'm here to hear Nicholas talk about what I did for him, because I do that. And I didn't say, okay, Nicholas, you got to write this down. You got to tell me what I did. I didn't say all of that, but to come back and hear that what I did, and I don't think it was a whole lot, but clearly in your life, it was a humongous amount. And I'm grateful that I was able to hear that, because it's always good to hear the kind of impact that you make on those that you serve. So Nicholas, thank you. Thank you for those words.
Thank you, Dr. Cash. Please stop. What? It meant that much to me. It meant that much to me. Thank you.
Well, you gave her hope.
She gave me hope. Well, thank you. I guess.
Well, I think that's it pretty much.
Yes. Well, what does MC have to say about that? It looks
he's been flashing us with time elements. He's back there crying. Look at him wiping his eyes. I see that.
I told you Dr. Cass was beautiful. I told you she was beautiful. You're beautiful, Dr. Cass. Thank you all so much for being with us here this week.
Thank you.
Voice of the Veteran. Thank you.
Yes.
Danielle, can you please take us out of here?
We'll see you. Yeah, man, this has been the Voice of the Veteran, the #1 show in the nation for firsthand veteran experience, and you heard it here today. We will see you next week. See you later.
See you next week. Voice of the Veteran.